It says we're live, so we've got to be live. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jonathan, and it's 5 o'clock somewhere, especially right here. And I'm just so excited to be starting on time. So you know what the routine is. I have a bunch of things to talk about, but mostly I want you to ask me some questions. So I will tell you the agenda, but I also want to say, wait a minute, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Hello to friends. Hello to family. My mom and dad may be tuned in. My wife may be tuned in. I know Pooba John and Jerry and Gregory are here. Rick G is here. Harmonica and Guitar Progress, also known as HGP, is here. So, hey, everybody. I would love to read a bunch of questions, answer a bunch of your questions over the next 2 hours or so. I have plenty to talk to you guys about, but let's get right into it. Why not? Time Surfing Alien, TSA, hello. Okay, Pooba John. How to detune. Let's get into it. Let's talk about one of the most absolutely beautiful things about being a guitar player, which is changing the tuning of the guitar. We love that, right? That's a beautiful thing. Okay. Beginner Guitar Lessons, by the way, is our moderator. Hello, Beginner Guitar Lessons. Before we get into tuning your guitar, we have a setting now here in our live chat, and the setting it sort of slows everybody's communications down just a hair. It's going to be about a 30-second gap between your live chat texting. So if you have something to say it, but it might take about another 30 seconds for you to have another opportunity to say something, just to keep things under control. Okay, let's get right into it. Pooba John asks how to detune, and retuning your guitar strings away from the conventional tuning. Remember, Eric and Dwayne got blues early. Eddie ate dynamite. Goodbye, Eddie. It's one of the most beautiful things, because you do whatever you want with the tuning, and when you're done, you put it back again, and nobody gets hurt. It's a beautiful thing. Every other instrumentalist out there wishes they could do that. Okay, I'm going to move this mic just a hair. How about like that? There we go. So detuning. Let's start with your fat 6th string, okay? Extremely common to loosen that fat 6th string down from the note D, from the note E as in echo, loosen it down to the note D as in delta, right? You can use any sort of electronic tuner, phone app, whatever you want to do that. But before you grab the tuner and start doing it, without even paying attention to yourself, I want you to test your own ear. You already have a D string. The 4th skinny string is a D string. You knew that, right? So you can use that as a reference point. You're going to loosen your 6th string so it's 1 octave lower than the open D string. I'm in the ballpark, right? Now, I'm going to intentionally bring it down a little bit too loose. That's definitely below D. It's a little bit too loose, because you always want your final motion to be a tightening motion, right? It helps the gears stick better. And I'm holding my headstock up to the camera because it just so happens I have a beautiful old Harmony Sovereign guitar here where you can see the gears. You can see those mechanisms, right? An open system here. Not ideal for keeping out dust and grit and stuff, but very cool for illustrative purposes. Okay, so I'm loosening my string. I went too loose intentionally. And now I'm going to bring it back up. Again, I'm using my 4th string as a reference. Okay. I believe it was Leo Kottke who famously once said, electronic tuners erase your ear. They don't ask anything of you, right? So that's why I'm saying, give yourself a shot, give yourself a chance to do it by ear, and then go and check it against the tuner, right? Yeah, you're going to surprise yourself. Okay, so I am now officially in drop D tuning. Okay, I'm changing 1 string down to D. If I were so inclined, I could go into double drop D, which means skinny E string, loosen that down to the note D. And again, I would encourage you guys to use the open D string as your reference point, loosen it down, and then check it against whatever method you want to check it. Okay, double drop D tuning. By the way, if you guys have not pursued this before, there's no time like the present. It opens up a lot of possibilities. We could do, now that I'm thinking about it, Pooba John, we could do a lesson, a live stream like this, where I take a couple of famous songs that require a certain tuning, like just the drop D, the simple drop D tuning. And I teach you guys, a couple either songs or riffs or something like Neil Young riffs or something like that. And then maybe in a subsequent live stream, a few tunes or riffs that have double drop D, because you know how I am. I like to have a specific song as an example. I don't want to turn you guys loose with, alternate tunings and just leave you to your own devices, because that's potentially a recipe for disaster. Beginner guitar lessons is making a great point. Use the D harmonic note as a reference point. Yeah, I'm going to choose to do that right there. The fourth string, the D string. You guys, have you done harmonics before? I'm touching the D string extremely lightly, right above the 12th fret, above the metal fret wire going across. And I'm plucking it extra hard with my right hand, so it really rings. If I just pluck the D by itself, open, it would sound like that. If I squeeze at the 12th fret, it would sound like that. But the harmonic, ooh, that nice bell kind of tone. So yeah, that would be a great reference note for tuning this skinny string down, because it's so high, So yeah. I'm not prepared to get into that today, the whole thing about showing you guys some examples, but I'm going to make a mental note because that's a great idea. My only concern as a teacher is simply maybe 1% of you would be messed up for the foreseeable future. 1%, 99% of you guys, this would go great. 1%, well, this is what I worry about. That 1% of you, now your fat string is looser and you struggle to get it back. I know 99% of you are like, that is not a struggle. You just tune it back to E. I know. I worry about you guys, So that's my concern. Okay. Now, final word on the subject. I'll get back to some more questions. I see a whole bunch of people are joining us here. Beautiful. We've got 34 friends here already. 34 people. What the heck? Beautiful. There is such a tuning as open D tuning, which would be the extreme, right? Not just loosening the fat string down to D, not just loosening the skinny string down to D. We would be loosening the second B string down to A, the third G string down to F sharp. The fourth would stay the same. So from fat to skinny, the open D tuning would be D, A, D, F sharp, A, D. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Nothing like open tuning. And one more piece of information in case I haven't got complicated enough. Open E tuning would be the same relationships cranked up 2 notes higher. Open E tuning is a relatively tight tuning on the guitar. We're cranking up a few of the strings tighter, leaving a few alone, cranking up a few tighter. Say, hypothetically, you're in open D tuning and you found something where you're supposed to be in open E tuning, you can still learn it. You don't have to go into open E tuning necessarily. All the relationships are the same. Does that make sense? If it bugged you, you could always slap a capo on the 2nd fret. Got me? Open D tuning with a capo on the 2nd fret. Now you're in open E tuning, right? So to be continued, though, to be continued. Thank you, Pooba John, for bringing this up. You've got my little, my creative ideas flowing here. Don't forget, folks, when you do ask a question, and I know you're going to, please put a handful of question marks in advance. And that keeps everything flowing smoothly. Okay. Hey, Bruce is wishing all of us Happy New Year from Sydney, Australia. Hey, Bruce. Bruce is asking, do you practice ear training, or is it something that developed with experience? Both, 100%. I mean, for sure, ear training is happening anytime you play any musical instrument, right? But why wait? Why wait for nature to take its course? Heaven forbid. So I have an app on my phone, and I won't lie, I don't use it as much as I intended to use it. The app that I have on my phone is called Perfect Ear. There's a lot of ear training apps out there. This one's called Perfect Ear, and I just liked it. And so it's right there on my homepage of my phone. And my fantasy was that I would use that on a regular basis. Has not happened yet, but don't let me stop you. So yeah, so ear training, yeah, grab an app. That's the easiest way. I'm sure there's websites and YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff. Can't hurt. Let me do a little prep, and then what a typical ear training program is and what you can expect, whether it's an app or, someone, because why not? Especially, I'm a big fan of taking advantage of circumstances. So let's say you have a commute to work. Who doesn't, right? Maybe during that 15 minutes or 45 minutes, or hopefully it's not too long, 2-hour commute. Imagine if every day you use that commute to do ear training or to do whatever, right? Who knows what improvements could happen. And so that's imagine taking off your 3 fattest strings of your guitar, replacing them with the appropriately sized skinny strings, so that instead of this song, actually down to D, but instead of that, okay, so your E, A, and D, 3 fat strings, are now skinnier strings that can connect up to the whole guitar. It's very high chiming ring. I believe that is Nashville. I don't know what the gauges of strings would be. I'm sure Sweetwater, I'm sure you can go and buy a set of strings. I'm putting the Sweetwater link in the chat. There we go. Specifically labeled Nashville tuning strings. So in case I'm wrong, feel free to fact check. Let's do some fact checking. But I believe that's how it works. And I'm sure there's YouTubers out there who have videos on what Many Vibes says, be careful though, alternate tunes are addictive and make you forget how to memorize your effect. There's a great appeal for that. ATC and E says, open tuning and focus tuning most of the other tracks are good like that. There are certain famous songs where the only way you can recreate that exact sound is by retuning your guitar to however that song is tuned. But if it having more noise to it, you can profoundly change your instrument in a non-destructive way. When you're done, you just tune it back again. Worst case scenario, lots of retuning. It could break a string for sure, which brings me to my first advice of the day. Always have 2 sets of strings handy, not just 1 set of strings. Get yourself 2 sets of strings. The kind that I like come in a 3-pack. You can get 3 sets or more, 10 sets, whatever. I like the Diodario EJ16, just a basic light gauge string. You always want to have a couple of sets handy, even though Sweetwater and everybody will get you the strings as fast as they can. Don't play with fire, So yeah. You guys are saying you're hearing some audio static. The mic doesn't sound right, huh? Why is that happening? Okay, let's see. That shouldn't be the case. Let's see. Don't worry, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, my friends. We'll figure it out. Okay. The mic sounded good, and now it doesn't sound good, huh? Okay. Is that any better? Is that any better? Let's see. Oh, but Gregory, I do have two mics, Sandy. Oh, it does seem okay now? Back? Yeah? That okay, who knows? Who knows? I'll take it. I had a few extra faders up. Hey, but you know what? We did it. We took care of it. Put that fire out. You know, excellent. Okay, sorry, whatever that was, but Where were we? I was going to give a shout out to my 8-year-old friend down there in Sydney, Byron. Byron, thank you for joining your dad and hanging out with us today. Keep those questions coming in, everybody. Rick G says, how would you know when your strings need changing? Strings always need changing. That's the short answer. Anytime is a good time to change your strings. But some of the things to look out for, visually, they've turned a grayish brown, dull gray brown color. The color of the strings up here at the headstock are probably different than the color of the strings on the fretboard because you don't touch those all the time. That's one way to check. If your guitar is not staying in tune, especially if the strings are constantly too tight and you find yourself loosening. But realistically, you know, I'm always going to tell you guys, it's always a good time to change your strings. I mean, a couple times a year minimum, you know. In my book called The Guitar Year One, I have step-by-step instructions how to change strings. It's no big deal, but it's a pain the first 1 or 2 times. There's a little bit of a learning curve. You're gonna end up with poking your fingers and need a Band-Aid. It's okay. You know, you get there. But learn how to change your own strings. It's worth it. And I'm sure I'm not the only guy out there who has some sort of information on how to change strings. It's worth it. And then that makes it even less of a burden to change strings. My advice, I have lots of advice. Number one is change one string at a time, just in case something goes wrong. The other 5 are still playable, right? You know, you use the other 5 strings as examples, assuming that the other 5 are put on properly. Use those as examples. Take it slowly. You're not in any rush. Have 2 sets of spare strings handy, not just one set, because something's going to go wrong. You're going to break a string, and then you're really out of luck. Have 2 sets of strings handy. Don't get complicated tying crazy knots, and don't do it. Don't fall for it. You don't need to tie any crazy knots in the strings up at the peg head up there. Okay, last piece of string changing advice, because there's plenty of advice out there. I mean, I could keep going, but whether it's acoustic or electric guitar, once the string is fixed in place at the bridge, and you're pulling the string through the post up here at the headstock, right? Do not pull the string super tight and then start turning that tuning machine knob. Don't do it. It'll break right away, and then you'll think, someone sold me a bad string. You have to leave some slack in the string so that by the time you're done, I know it's hard to see exactly, by the time you're done, you should have a couple of wraps around the post, okay? You know, like a lot of things in life, you're going to do it wrong the first time. Yeah, you're not going to do it wrong the second time, you know? Okay, scrolling for some more questions. Don't forget, everybody put those question marks in advance. Are you guys saying that Mike is doing it again? Okay, how about this? Did that help a little bit? How's that? Any better? Hope you can hear me a little bit better. Chris Creates, hey Chris, says, do I need a string winder to change strings, and should I get light strings? You don't need a string winder, especially the first time. I like my students to get a feel for what it means. What it means to to make a gear move. So you don't need it. Oh, but what a string winder is good for on acoustic guitar, many string winders have a little, I call it a lip. Really, it's a gap. It's a negative space that helps pop out the bridge pins. Um, so yeah, go ahead and get a string winder. I mean, they're just a few bucks, right? And yes, light gauge strings. Everybody just play with light gauge strings. Just do it. Medium gauge strings stress out your fingers and stress out your guitar, and yeah, just light gauge strings. Why? When would I make an exception to that? If you know you're going to be tuning your guitar strings looser, like on constantly, like you're going to be in a tuning where the strings are always going to be looser than average. Then yeah, then that's a good example of when to use medium gauge strings. Um, Playing slide guitar. Some of you guys might remember I have a dobro that's intentionally set up with slightly higher string action for slide guitar playing. So I can lean into the slide a little bit and not worry too much about clonking it against the fretboard. So yeah, if you know you're going to be, have a guitar that's your guitar dedicated to slide guitar, then I recommend heavier strings. You don't have to, but then it's not a crazy idea. Okay. HGP says that he heard of a guy who's only changed his strings twice in the past 15 years. He hates the new sound. Um, hey, you're gonna find examples of everything. I think that's kind of weird, but who knows? Who knows this little factoid about the Motown recording studio drum set? If you know about that drum set, you know what I'm about to say. The legend is that the Motown recording studio drum set was never the drums, once they're ready to go, played, everyone's happy, was never touched. The drum heads were never fine-tuned in any way for, I guess, years and years and years and years, because everyone was happy with the sound, which is crazy. But hey, you know what? You don't mess with success. So anything. TSA says, imagine the germs in extremely old strings. Yeah, maybe. Poopa John says, is there a way to increase the size of a tuner? When you say this, be more specific. What do you mean about the size of the tuner? The size of the tuning machines at the headstock? Is that what you mean? They are replaceable. And you can either get affordable tuning machines, or you can get some pretty expensive ones as well. So yes, you can swap them out, or have a guitar tech swap them out, and sky's the limit. Different types of buttons, metal, plastic. Yeah, um, so okay, I am scrolling. I'm looking for those questions. Don't give up on me, you guys. Don't give up on me. uh HGP, I'm looking for your question. Okay, I'm looking. Did I miss it? uh okay, I don't worry. I'm still looking for everyone's questions. Bod says, my guitar tutor has me practicing Oh Pretty Woman. Any advice on practicing the intro? Should I start off slow and build it up? Yeah, yeah. So you've got the guitar tab for good old Roy Orbison. I wonder if that riff was Roy Orbison's riff. I don't, I don't know. When it comes down to it, I don't know. So what a great riff, especially if you play fifth fret notes as opposed to open strings. You guys know what I'm talking about. In general, the fifth fret on one string, is the same sound as the next skinnier string open. But don't do it. Don't do it. Give your pinky a workout. I love this intro riff because it puts three of your fingers to work. The way I teach it, you don't need your second finger, but you do need your index ring and pinky. And you're covering up a handful of different strings. Also, down up picking. You guys know I'm in love with down up picking. It's a perfect time to employ down up picking. In fact, don't play the riff without down up picking. It's worth it. It's worth it. But I'm glad your teacher gave you that riff. Sounds like you got a good teacher, because that's a riff that has benefits that will help you in the future. You guys, I like how these questions are coming in. I'm scrolling down now. Hey, Stephen, welcome. Okay. Caleb, your question says, can you use the same gauge for all strings? Are you talking about actually taking off all your strings and essentially putting the same, 6 of the exact same strings on, like all the way across? Yes. And before some of you think that's cuckoo, who would do that? Stephen Stills. I don't know that I did that exact thing, but Stephen Stills from Crosby, Stills and Nash, for some of his most famous songs, the tuning is something like, E, 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 B, E, E. I mean, something crazy like that, where like the majority of the strings are tuned to E. So I don't know much beyond that, but I imagine that he's repeating some of the same gauges. So yeah, anything's possible. Anything's possible. Hey, it's great excuse to have a second or third guitar, right? Have something that is your sort of experimental guitar. Why not? In general, you guys, I think you might have picked up on this. I'm never going to discourage you guys from being creative. I might throw out some, warnings, or some, try to raise your awareness to, okay, this could go wrong. You retune your strings a lot, you could break a string. But in general, hey, if you're inclined to get creative and experiment, do it, go for it. So yeah. Many Vibe says down up picking on the same string for finger style. Okay, so bare fingers, a very cool thing. Any recommendations for refining that? So if I understand correctly, you're talking about staying on one string, but using two fingers, going down, up, down, up, down, up. Like you could go alternate between your thumb plucking down towards the floor and your index going up. Yeah, I mean, that's, yep. Or index and middle. You're reminding me that classical guitar, people who really pursue legitimate, beautiful classical guitar, they do have finger exercises like this, where, to my knowledge, multiple fingers will be alternating on the same string. Boy, I sure wish I had a better knowledge on classical guitar, because they know what they're doing. Those folks know what they're doing. It's the technique has been refined and refined and refined, and they know what they're doing, and they can explain why it's important to do things their way. And most of us don't play that way, right? Most of us play like a bunch of cowboys, cowgirls, rock stars, whatever. But I'm always going to encourage you guys to watch a bunch of classical folks on YouTube, live, in person if possible. And hey, if by some miracle you got a classical guitar teacher in your neighborhood, would never hurt to do a handful of lessons. Okay. Booba John says, can you make your guitar sound like it's crying? Uh, I know some tricks. Good old Roy Buchanan. You guys know Roy Buchanan, right? Talk about making the guitar sound like it's full of emotion. Yeah. Um, volume swells with bends and harmonics. A volume swell on electric guitar, right? Imagine the volume knob is at 0, right? You pluck the note, so essentially it's nothing is coming out of the amplifier, and then with your pinky you swell the volume up so that you don't hear the attack of the pick, but you do hear the sound kind of come out of nowhere, um, kind of like the like a violin note. Violin, the gentle, soft horsehair, doesn't have the same attack as like a pick, right? So yeah, work on your volume swells and your bends, and then But when in doubt, check out the master Roy Buchanan. I don't know if you guys remember this, but way back, maybe the very first live stream. This is number 30, by the way. The very first live stream. I mentioned that on a regular basis, I drive past a fairgrounds not too far from my house where Roy Buchanan played his last gig before his tragic death, and it's still, I think, how there should be a placard. There should be something there. Um, just the Guilford, Connecticut fairgrounds. His last gig, and I don't know. I mean, it's not the world we live in, but I just I don't know. I think it's a big deal, man. It's a big deal. Anyways, okay. Hey, I'm going to take a break from your questions for a minute and share with you guys a few things that I want to share with you. I'm going to pause for the cause. Today's live stream is sponsored by, not really, the San Pellegrino flavored mineral water. Today, our flavor is tangerine and wild strawberry. Works for me. Okay. What I want to, a few things I want to mention to you. When I go back and timestamp the live streams, I have to deal with all the same ads that you guys probably have to deal with during the live stream. So I just want you to know I have to deal with those ads too. I can't escape them, even in my capacity as the creator of the live stream. So I feel your pain if every, I don't know, few minutes you guys have to deal with some sort of ad. Hopefully it doesn't affect you too much, but I know we get interrupted now and then from these with the ads, and I have to deal with them too. So I just want to mention that. Here's something. You want $1 million idea? Sure you do. Everybody's watches and phones, they count your steps during the day, right? Here's what I think would be dynamite. A watch, an app on your watch, right? That counts your down up picking during the day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10. I would love it if you guys did 10,000 down ups a day. That'd be awesome, right? So there's your $1 million app idea. Why not? It is the kind of thing you want to be proud of, man. If you did a whole bunch of down ups every day, conscientiously with some sort of riff like "Oh Pretty Woman" or whatever, or practicing your scales with down up picking. I mean, yeah, I would love for someone to say, "Hey, man, I hit my goal, man. 10,000 down ups today." Just as important as 10,000 steps, in my humble opinion. How about, here's a little teaser. Stick around, my friends, because before we're done tonight, I will show you the worst guitar book ever. How's that for a teaser? Who's curious about the worst guitar book ever? Oh, I've got it. I've got it handy right here. I will show you the worst guitar book ever. Yeah. What else is on my agenda tonight? Oh, somebody asked a great question about alternatives to a metronome. Who was that? Was that A to Z Me? Was that you, A to Z Me, last Saturday? And I had an idea after the live stream, as I often do. Okay, what about those of you with Apple products using GarageBand as a metronome, getting some sort of drum machine going within GarageBand and using that as your metronome. Why not? So this is what pops into my head in the days of the week in between our live streams, using GarageBand as a metronome. I imagine GarageBand might even have a metronome component, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you know, if you have GarageBand anyways, why not? A to Z Me is saying that YouTube has many metronome videos, whatever beat you want. Yeah, okay, go for it. Go for it. Just a thought. Scott Rhodes says, the worst guitar book ever. Is that a challenge to write an even worse one? I don't know. That's my teaser, so stick around. Hey, Kristen, welcome. Kristen Jorgensen joining us from overseas. Stephen Mannion is asking what the chord of the night is. Perfectly good question. The song I have for you guys tonight, I'll tease you on that one too, just has regular chords. So off the top of my head, I don't have a chord of the night at the moment, but we'll get there. So here's a teaser. In just a little while, when we do our guitar play along for the night, the guitar play along is a song made famous by a guy with a bullet in his back. What? Yes, this singer that we'll be playing one of his hit songs tonight was shot by, depending on the story, either an overzealous fan or a jilted lover. The doctors decided to leave the bullet in because the bullet was too close to his spine, and he did lose a kidney, but the bullet remained. And the song we're going to do tonight, he sang his heart out about 6 years after the shooting. So the song we're going to do tonight, I hope you guys all crank it up and listen to it with new, fresh ears next time you hear him doing it. Think to yourself, that guy singing that song has a bullet in his back. Holy cow. And a very interesting life story. Not the happiest life story, not the greatest, considering how the guy is well known, had a bunch of great songs. His career did not go the way it should. And at least according to Wikipedia, it's kind of tough. Anyway, so you have that to look forward to. So stick around for our mystery song. Stick around for the worst guitar book ever written. And let's see. If I didn't miss any questions, I'll be a happy guy. Okay, so let's do something. Let's do something. Oh, let's plug up. Let's sell something. Okay, I may have showed you this before. I think this is the coolest thing, and I'm just showing you this. I don't get any money for this. I just think it's so cool. Okay, from the D'Addario Company, an acoustic quick release. Okay, what's the point of this thing? It's so cool. You know how tons of acoustic guitars do not have a strap button somewhere in this vicinity of the guitar? Hopefully you have one on this end, but not right there. Okay, well, you can install one yourself. You can do that, but for a variety of reasons, you might not want to. So you get one of these things, the D'Addario Acoustic Quick Release. I'm going to hold up the little diagram to the camera there, because the picture is worth 1,000 words. See how it works? One end goes through your strap, the other end goes up at the headstock, and you click it together and you just solve the problem. Such a cool thing. So anyways, if I never showed you guys that before, tonight's the night. If I did show it to you before, well, then clearly I'm obsessed with that invention. This thing is cool. And I like the D'Addario company and the Planet Waves company in general. So why not? Okay, here's something that I mentioned last time, but we never got around to talking about it. This is an awesome guitar book that I just got over Christmas time, and I haven't spent too much time with it yet. The book is The Advancing Guitarist by Mick Goodrick. Sadly, Mick Goodrick is not with us anymore, but the book lives on. This is a nice, fresh copy. and I just heard a lot about it recently, and thought I'd pick up a copy. A lot of people have posted videos based on the way Mick Goodrick taught, and some of them, in some cases, they're based directly on this book. And what's so interesting about this, about his approach, especially his approach, from page one, looking at the guitar as a one-string instrument, focusing on one string, ignoring the other six, and really learning music based on one string, learning how to play a major scale on one string. In fact, learning how to play any major scale, but staying on one string. And I wish I could go into more detail. I just haven't done the total deep dive yet, but it's really fascinating what I've read so far, and I can't wait to get into it more and share it with you guys. So The Advancing Guitarist by Mick Goodrick, I got it from Amazon. I'm sure it's out there in a variety of places, but um, and don't wait for me. You guys can go on YouTube and just type in like Mick Goodrick guitar lesson or something. Goodrick, Mick Goodrick, and you'll find either him, I suppose, or many people who are big fans of his teaching, showing interesting concepts. So, you know, um, Oh, Bot is recommending a book. He says a good book for down-up picking is called Guitar Cross Picking by Mickey Cochran. Oh, you guys know I love hearing about book recommendations. Um, Guitar Cross Picking by Mickey Cochran. Interesting, you should mention that because before the end of the night, I want to share a cross-picking thing with you guys. And do I have it handy? I meant to have it handy. It's got to be around here somewhere. Because it's been on my agenda, but I don't feel like we've done it. I feel like I've maybe mentioned it. Forward rolls, banjo playing. It's like treating the guitar like a banjo. And I mean that respectfully. Guitar cross picking. So we'll get to that. Okay. How are we doing here? We got 41 of you out there. I see a bunch of thumbs up. I appreciate that. If you're so inclined, you're always welcome to give a thumbs up to what we're doing. Hey, how do you guys like this return to the 5 o'clock start? I hope that's okay, uh, because that's how it's going to be. That was my intention all along. Because of a few challenges, I had to start at 5:30 for a little while, but now we're back. Hey, let's do a poll. Okay, let's do a poll. First poll question. How would you guys feel about doing this live stream occasionally on a Friday at the same time? How do you feel about that? Okay, so the poll question, and the reason I'm asking this is because I'm curious, and the way my schedule is. Okay, so the question is, I'm about to add this poll to the live stream. Would you like an occasional Friday 5 p.m. Eastern live stream? And your two options, ready? Your two options are I love it and it doesn't work for me. Okay, and this is occasional. This is like, basically it's based on your answers. Once in a while, instead of Saturday 5 p.m., do Friday 5 p.m. My hope is that for some of you, it's the best thing you ever heard. Like, oh, finally, I can, whatever. And then, but who knows? I don't know. It just happens at the moment. I have It's a possibility. I don't know, once a month, once every couple months. So go ahead, jump into that poll right there. Uh, Johnny Mobasher, I saw you asked a question earlier, Johnny, right? And I'm scrolling up. Hey, Walter. Walter's in New Mexico, but he's listening as he drives. You're off of work, yeah? Excellent, excellent. I know sometimes you do have to work. Um, Johnny, where was your question? I could have swore I saw that you had asked a question, so I'm scrolling up looking for that. Johnny, if you do have a question, would you put it again, ask it again in the chat? I'd appreciate that. And Johnny, I see you got one of the Hal Leonard guitar books. I wonder which one you got. Was it the blues guitar or country guitar? Those are two that I plug a lot, but there's other ones too. Okay, Gregory. Gregory asks, Gregory says, I learned about walk-ups and walk-downs recently. Are they used in folk and rock music? I learned about them in country music. Yeah, there you go. You're connecting a whole bunch of dots right there. Yeah, walk-downs and walk-ups. Here's what I bet you're talking about. The sound of, here it comes. Or you can reverse it, right? That kind of sound. Yeah, walking up and down. Definitely something that, you can't play country music without that skill. But you're absolutely right. It shows up really any style of music. You'll find opportunities, either mandatory, mandatory, occasions where you have to do that, or just opportunities where you can hit a fat string, a bass string, answer back with a chord strum, maybe some extra melodic or otherwise notes in the bass strings back to the chord, So yeah, walk ups and walk downs are a very linear sound, but there's also sort of jumping around more melodically. And no matter what, though, your ability to reach in and get a single bass note on a bass string and then return to the chord, yeah, it's a really, really necessary skill. And it kicks it's almost like a graduating type of skill. It'd be kind of a cool thing to make a list of those. The things that we've talked about this a little bit before, things that a beginner can't do, but when you can do it, you clearly have whatever you want to call it. You're intermediate, or you're just not a beginner anymore. And I know because, as you guys know, I've taught beginning guitar since 1992. And I know a beginner when I see it, and I also know that moment when they do something and like they just graduated, and I know because I was that guy, 100%. I was that guy who strummed 6 strings as much as possible, yeah, and just I just didn't know how to break that vicious cycle, and by hook or by crook, yeah, sooner or later you begin to single out individual bass strings, and yeah, so um, you can find opportunities to do that all over the place. It's one of those, what I just did there, it's one of those guitar cliches, right? We've all heard that a million times. And whether you love that or you don't love it, whether you consider it a good cliche or a bad cliche, you got to have the skills to do that, so you can take those skills into whatever style of music is your favorite style of music, for sure. Okay, I'm going to ease up one of the microphones. Bear with me, guys. Okay, so I had this guitar mic turned down a few minutes ago, and now I brought it back up because I really want to include it. So you guys let me know if the sound gets funky out there. Okay, so how we doing? We are. I think we're getting close to time for our sing along, play along. Oh, okay, Johnny, I see. Johnny's question was, what's the purpose of tuning the E string down to D? Pure creativity. That's it, just pure creativity. It's just a very cool sound. Oh, and when you tune, I have lots of thoughts about this. If and when you do loosen your fat E string down to D, you know what you can do? Hit all 6 strings when you strum a D chord. And suddenly the D chord becomes the mightiest thing you ever heard, The way you might feel like E major and E minor have obviously a huge, big, harmonious sound in standard tuning. When you drop down to drop D tuning, now the D chord is royalty, It's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. Um, so Another reason to retune any string to anything is because you're learning a very specific song, and that's what that person did. And the only way you can get their sound is to do that as well, you know. And Bod, you're following up on something I said, which is, you know, when do you go from beginning to intermediate? What is it? And obviously, you know, this is nothing with I can I've talked before, and I'm happy to talk again about certain things that to me, you know, make me think this person is well on their way. They're not a beginner anymore. And there's lots of those things. Uh, um, so but it's not like there are these national tests you take, and you go in on a Saturday morning, you take a test, and then you come out of the test and you say, I am now intermediate, right? We're in a creative environment here where things are not always black and white. In fact, they pretty much are never black and white. But having said that, um, things, you know, things that what I would consider an intermediate player can do that a beginner, you know, cannot do. Um, this is one of them. The ability to confidently, you know, pick a very specific bass string intentionally. You know which one you're going to hit. It's not an accident. You know you're going to hit, say, the sixth string during an E minor chord. You get a nice punchy sound, and then answer back with a nice light brush, maybe down up on the treble strings. Now, I have no doubt that all of you could do that physical skill. I've no doubt. You guys are great. But it's one thing to sort of bang it out mechanically, and it's another thing to get a nice, smooth, flowing thing going, right? So a beginner is going to follow directions and bang it out. What I would consider an intermediate player, it's going to have that nice flow to it, right? They're going to communicate how relaxed and confident they are, you know, because they're using only a little bit of their brain power. They're already thinking about the next chord. They're thinking about whatever. Yeah. Bod, you're asking a good question. I feel like it'd be kind of cool to make a checklist. Um, and none of this stuff is carved in stone, but it might be kind of cool to, I don't know, to maybe come up with maybe 20 things. And I would run by you guys. I'd say, okay, what do you think of this list of 20 things that separate a beginner from an intermediate player, and get a little feedback from you guys. By the way, when I think of beginner, intermediate, and advanced, I'm not thinking of advanced as being whoever you guys consider to be the most amazing guitar player in the world at this moment. I would consider beginner, when I think of beginner, intermediate, and advanced, I would say it's within the realm of amateur guitar players, people who have not devoted their life to it, you know, amateur guitar players who are working at it and making progress. Um, so like what I would consider to be advanced is someone who I could hang out and just play some songs with, you know, and I could say, oh, let's play this song. It's blah 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 blah, and let's just strum, and hey, feel free to take a lead in the middle. That's an advanced guitar player. That's how I'm using that term. You know, someone who we can just sit and just play some songs, and there's, you know, they can do the rhythm guitar part, they can do the lead guitar part. Not even necessarily hard songs, but um, we're doing the dance. You know, we're making music together with no excuses or apologies or hesitation. We're just banging out a Beatles song, you know, um, and the student is playing all the right notes in a relaxed, calm, flowing way. We're basically doing the song at the speed it was recorded at, no questions asked. So let's call that advanced. Okay, I'm not talking about doing the hardest song in the world either, right? A Beatles song, something like that. Intermediate would be someone who totally knows what to do, and they can kind of, but they just can't get it to flow. They just can't, you know what I mean? That feel like, why are my fingers fast? And but I totally get it, you know. But they're on the edge, and they can, you know, they have to stop and make little adjustments. And we've all been there. Believe me, that this is a good place to be. You know, you've done your work. You know a whole bunch of chords. You know different strumming patterns, but maybe there are very few songs that you can just relax and comfortably play all the way through. That's okay. You're an intermediate guitar player. And a beginner, in my mind, a beginner is someone who has spent I mean, they just got their guitar yesterday. they've spent very little time, so you guys see what I'm saying? So I'm not talking about so-and-so rock star is advanced. Yeah, we know that. Of course they're advanced, I mean, they devote their life to it, and it's, of course, that, so I encourage you guys to apply those terms to yourself. If you can play a smooth song all the way through, if you can do that and sing along, just, just nice, steady strumming, sing along, that's pretty advanced. You know what I mean? Believe me, I see so many people who aren't quite there yet, especially if you're doing the authentic guitar part. You're not doing some sort of easy tone down. If you're doing the actual guitar part, that's advanced. Okay, that's where I'm coming from. It's tough to uh, to be more scientific about it. Although, hey, I'm not opposed to that. Can you play a major arpeggio across 6 strings with a metronome set at this tempo? Yeah, I mean, we could go there. That's not a crazy idea. But what if you can't do that, but you can play 6 Tom Petty songs and sound great? Well, that's still pretty advanced, right? So that's why I hesitate to give any Chris, I'm reading your comment. That's why I hesitate to be too scientific about it. Although it's not a crazy idea, but Chris is saying at camp they made us wear beginner swim caps, in case they needed to save us. Should we have the same idea for guitar players? Not a crazy idea, but don't forget we're all beginners once. Willie says I would have to go on stage with that cap on. Yeah. Many vibes. I see your question. I see you got a couple questions. Those are great. I like these questions that are coming in. Bear with me, you guys. Okay, Gregory, I want to grab your question right here. Gregory says, is there a difference between boom chucka and boom chicka? Are they the same? Yeah, the same thing. I say boom chicka. I imagine there's someone out there who calls it boom chucka. And I'm sure there's completely other different names for that, but I think boom chicka just works so well. Boom chicka, boom chicka, boom chicka. And there's variations. Boompa chicka, boompa chicka. How about just boom chick, boom chick, boom chick? Little, variations, right? Oh, in fact, for today's play along song, which we'll get to in 1 second, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing the boom chick strum with an occasional dip into boom chicka with an upstroke. So maybe we should get to that in a minute. Okay. Many vibes. I see a couple questions here, and then we will get into our planning. Anybody know who I'm talking about? A singer who had bunch of hit songs in general. The song we're going to do, in fact, went to number 6 on the charts in 1967, and he did it with a bullet in his back. Oh my gosh, who am I talking about? I know some of you are just going to Google it. Hey, Susan, welcome. Okay, so Many Vibes asks, do you recommend learning a whole song when only parts of it interest you? I always am going to encourage you guys to follow your heart. If there's one part of the song you want to learn, just for satisfaction for doing it, yeah, just do it. You don't have to learn the whole song all the way through. On the other hand, if you don't know any songs all the way through, that can be frustrating. If not now, down the road, you might look and yourself, geez, I've had this guitar, I've devoted all this time, I don't know any songs all the way through. I don't want any of you to get into that position. But but we're all doing this for our own pleasure. It's how we spend our time on planet Earth. So yeah, learn what you want to learn and move on. Just be aware there may be people in your life who are like, oh, I love that song. Can you play the rest of it? You may think, dang it, I never really learned the rest of it. But I for sure have a whole bunch of songs where I can play the signature riff, but I don't know the whole song. I don't know. So don't beat yourself up. The tunes, actually, this is a nice lead in. The tunes that I bring to the table here during our live streams, the play along tunes, are tunes that I find tunes that are so clear and so straightforward that that you have to add them to your repertoire. At least you can say, okay, what do I know how to do? I know how to do that song. Whether you love the song or not, you have to admit to yourself or to anyone that, like, yes, I do know that song all the way through. As you guys know, I pick songs that are, kind of easy. But don't forget, even those of you who are hotshot, advanced players, the easy song can be a platform for you to do your stuff, whether it's adding lead guitar, playing different versions of the chords up the neck. I expect you to do that. If you are more advanced. Um, and your other question, Many Vibes says, I only play when I'm having fun, and I lack discipline. Yeah, yeah. Well, number one, if you're having fun, then you're getting it right. I mean, that's what we're here for. Um, Interestingly, is it a coincidence that we call it playing music, playing guitar, right? I don't know many other foreign languages, but I do wonder, does every other language on the planet use that verb regarding making music on your instrument? I wonder. I don't know. Hope they do, or something even better. I don't know. But then again, okay, in discipline, discipline's tricky. Because we're all so different. Uh, but yeah, I tell you what, if you promise something to somebody, now you're stuck, and you got to have the discipline to follow through. I've had a number of students over the years who said, and the ones that come to mind right now, they were Christmas related promises. Like, by Christmas, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna play this song for my sister. I'm gonna make a video of me doing this song as part of my Christmas card presentation. Um, so yeah, promise something to somebody, and that's at least you find out a little bit more about your discipline, uh, because as you know, we all make goals and New Year's resolutions, and that can be tricky if you're the only one who knows, you've got that goal. Um, but yeah, discipline can be tricky. I can tell you it's worth it. The times when I've made the most progress is, the times where I've carved out specific practice time and stuck with it and worked and worked and worked on something. And I for lack of a better term, I find it addictive when I see my body being able to execute the things I've been working on, and the execution is getting better. I hope I never get over that feeling. I've had that feeling ever since I started playing, drums as a little kid. That feeling of success, uh, physical, mental. Um, your brain has to make sense of the task, firstly, and then secondly, your brain has to convince your body to do it. And when you finally get it, oh my God, what a good feeling. So I don't know any way to get there other than discipline. Crossing your fingers doesn't doesn't work. Putting the song under your pillow doesn't work. But I get it. I get it. Discipline is tricky. Um, my my final thought on the matter is, sometimes you have to sacrifice something else. That other thing that you're doing for 30 minutes a day. Okay, you can't do that anymore. you know, and that's tricky. Like, wait a minute, because you probably are spend your days doing things, in the little free time